Before we go there, I just want to say that this is not getting ready to be a let's beat up on women conversation for my part. And I'm not getting ready. It's not getting ready to be male fragility either, right? What I see here in the media here lately is this: anything you can do, I can do better. Everything I can do it better than you. Women, this agenda of women outmanning men. Okay, this is what I see. I'll give you an example. There's a movie coming out, Woman King. Okay, Woman King. Guess what? A woman is not a king. A woman is a queen. All right. What's wrong with being a queen? Why must women be king? When Queen Elizabeth found out that her father George III, King George III died, did she become a woman king? She became the queen of England. So there's nothing wrong with being a queen, all right? Being a queen is fabulous, all right, for a woman, okay? But let's reverse it. Let's say there was a movie called Man Queen, okay? So, I mean, how ridiculous does that sound? I'm not going to say there's nothing wrong with being a woman. I'm going to say it's everything beautiful about being a woman. And when you think about our women, okay, and I talked about, women of African descent, it is a historical fact that there has been an agenda to defeminize our women, just like there's an agenda to emasculate our men. Okay, so defeminizing them, making them more masculine. Okay, when I see things woman king, I'm like, why not woman queen? Or why not the queen? Why does it have to be woman king?
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? See, so
Yeah.
this is this comparison between men and women. A woman can outman a man. Okay, so if women are outmanning men, what is the purpose of men? And this goes back to breaking down our family dynamic and our
Right.
family structure, because there is no group on the planet Earth in the history of this world that has ever been any successful group of people without family at its core. However that family
Right.
may look, all right, and with defined roles within that family. See, so this is my biggest issue is this, the ridiculousness of women outmanning men when
Right.
women are perfectly good and wonderful just as they are as women. you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I don't want to go to this. I'm gonna beat the women up. Oh, and I'm feeling fragile, and I'm feeling no. That's not what this is about. And we have to recognize that, because ultimately you got to ask yourself, who benefits from this gender war? Who benefits from breaking us up and making us, be at odds with each other, right? Certainly not the masses. Certainly not all of the women, as we can see, right? So there's an actual group of people that actually benefit from this. And I've always said is the labor class of people will always outnumber the elite and everybody else. So as long as you can keep the labor class divided and not, keep so they can't hold anybody accountable for their lives, or hold everybody accountable for the prosperity that they have, then yeah. So this is just another measure. It's,
Is gender war. I posted something already on Facebook and everything, and got folks already tagging it and everything. And one of the things that I wanted to say right up front and is that uh, all of us born after 1960, okay, isn't the same men, husbands, and fathers of all those born before 1960. So our women are starting to see a difference in our men, because our men are starting to realize, that they can drop it. They don't have to be fearful about speaking their truth and thinking that somebody gonna come and lynch them and take something out their house or do something. Our men can now speak their truth without the repercussion of something happening, like a lynch or a white mob, like Emmett Till uncle had to deal with. So yes, is there a I think there is a gender war that's happening, and I think the not just the left, but our whole society is up against it. And I think our culture of people, general statement again, Marcus, I believe our demographics of people is the ones burden the proof of trying to come out of that, because we've been still not allowed to be free to be who we are. So we suffer the most because we're still trying to find ourselves. We're still trying to find ourselves, and now we got LBGTQ, illegal immigrants, and everybody else going on top of us before we actually
Well,
get a handle on who we are.
well, the question always remains: how do we move forward from that?
Well, I think to move forward, the difficult task of moving forward is that there are so many different messages that they don't all have to be the same. They just have to be headed in the same direction.
Right,
And if all those messages are headed in the same direction, then I think we can move forward as a people. The thing about the power of the subconscious mind, we get fed these things subconsciously, and what goes in uh, is this second class type thing, and then next thing you
right,
know, it manifests itself in your
right,
conscious mind. And so we have to begin to put in our subconscious mind all those things that are positive about us as a
right.
community, and then they will
Exactly,
manifest themselves. We didn't all start out financially stable. We had to learn that someplace, and
exactly,
then
exactly.
apply that and make that happen for us. And so as we talk about the individual responsibility individually, I have to take care of myself. Collectively, that grows, right? You move a mountain one piece of dirt at a time, or one rock at a time. And I think it's the
Right,
same thing. As individually, we have to become financially stable and
right,
understanding what that means. And we have to have that in our mind. Subconsciously, we tell ourselves these are things we must do to get there. And then
exactly.
it'll create a swell, and then it'll create a tidal wave. And so I think it's much more complicated than that, but that's the down and dirty of how
But
we move forward.
that's a simple. But Marcus, that's a simple foundation of how to build it. It's no different than me calling myself a messiah of my household. Okay. Bottom line is, self-consciously, I'm saying I'm the messenger in my household from my creator. Okay, that's all I'm trying. I'm the messenger in my house from my creator, and what goes on and what happens down on this house moving forward. Not nobody else. Okay, and but it got to start with each and every one of us individually willing to put a perimeter around what's ours. And then, Joe, you see me doing it, then you say, "Oh, look what Uncle Michon doing. Oh man, that's popping." Someone see you doing it, Joe. Oh wow, look what Joe doing.
Yeah.
Man, I like that. And then all of a
But
sudden we
but
start.
but I mean, but think about that, Michon, and that's all great sentiments. But I mean, I feel like, dude, we are fighting against TV,
Yeah,
radio, and
I
social
agree.
media. So,
Yeah,
you're sitting, that's great, but I mean, and this is where the sentiment everybody can't go, and you can't help everybody comes from, because the
that's right.
reality is that we're up against something that is ultimately too great. You know, the second that you go find 10 people that you can influence in a positive manner to become more accountable and
Right.
such, and become better men, then there's 100,000 people being influenced the other direction,
But exactly.
by TV programming, social media programming, again,
Right.
programming your
Programming.
mind.
Exactly.
So, uh, it almost seems like a lost cause at sometimes. I mean,
We
it, it,
can't
it
give
really
up hope,
does.
man. My question is, do we have that in our community, Marcus? I mean, you and I talked about. Do we have that authentically, genuinely in our community, where the same equivalent of what we learn in the military? We know what a platoon sergeant is. We know what a company commander is. We know what they do. Okay, why can't we transfer that back into our community of leadership?
Well, and I believe you do have it to some degree, but to Joe's point is that those things get overshadowed
Right.
by the propaganda that's thrown out there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
There's no place you can retreat to unless you choose to retreat to those places where those positive things take place.
Right. Right.
You see, so we have to try and get them into those positive places, and some of it is our own doing. They
Yeah.
wouldn't produce it if we didn't watch it.
Say that again.
I,
Say it
I
again.
asked the question before: is how is it that somebody that lives in rural Kentucky have the same mentality as somebody that grew up in inner city Atlanta? And the only way that's possible is they have to be socialized
Right.
through what they see on TV or what they hear on the internet or wherever they're getting it from.
Right.
And so Joe's point is the only real point is that unless we can curb or change the
Cut it off.
socialization and the propaganda that comes with that, then we're spitting in the wind. Even though we'll continue to spit in the wind until we can change that path. We may save a few, but we're by and large, most of them are going to be caught up in the propaganda.
Yeah, very true. I saw something go across there. Martin says it's head of household. I guess he's referring to my Messiah conversation, head of household conversation, which is a lot of truth to that. But head of household is not something. Head of household is not a new concept. There were people who wanted to be head of household back in the early '60s and prior to that. And this government prevented them from being a head of household. They could have yelled Jesus, Jesus, Jesus all day long, but they're calling themselves Jesus or believing that they were a child of God didn't give them the authority to be as equal as the dominant European culture that stripped down their rights to be a man. So when I say today that I'm a Messiah, I'm just speaking that I'm the head of our household. And I understand that I can fight for that, okay? But that's my individual choice. Now, Joe, you're right. I mean, there's so much going on, man. There is an intentional, ingrained system in place, intentionally engaged to keep, specifically, like you said, Marcus, they never included us, never intended, never meant, never thought in a million years, okay, that we will be sitting the way we're sitting today. And you still got grown men, specifically men, thinking, oh, it's not true. It's you just got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and everything. You can work it out. It's gonna be okay. A bunch of
Well, I mean,
BS.
I think, and listen, it is true. You can pull yourself up
Yeah.
by your bootstraps. The problem is that if there's somebody there that's always cutting the strings that you created out of thin air yourself, then that's where a lot of the problem lies. Somebody's there continually cutting the strings, but they can't cut everybody's strings all at the same time.
Right. They can't
So
cut everybody's strings at the same time. Right.
some people get out. Some people
That's
get out.
right.
Some people get out the matrix.
Of course, that every time any system of oppression that's overcome, there's always one waiting in its place, and it traps fewer and fewer people each time. And
Right.
so, as we eliminate these systems of oppression, there's another one's in place, and it's always that way, right? And so there's this unwritten thing that happens that individual groups are pitted against other groups, whether they realize it or not.
Right.
And that creates some competition, and you see these things, and those groups and those lines vary. It's not always going to be by gender or race, or it's going to be all different types of things. And so these groups form, and some people have all these and some won't. And so that's just going to always be. The question is how do we navigate through that system,
Right,
so that everybody has the opportunity. And that's really the question that comes up. How does everybody get the same opportunity?
right.
And what does that look like?
What do you
Saying
think
we're
about?
equal.
I was just reading your thing, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, and I love that you putting that up there and everything. What do you think about this idea that we who who have the subconscious understanding of what's happening to us, we have to create some type of incubator system. This is why I was talking about the adult emotional learning. Okay, somehow, some way, and that's not something we need to get the permission of nobody but us willing to say we're going to do it for ourselves. Okay, it's kind of like when I'm the platoon sergeant and I call a meeting with my platoon. Okay, I plan what I'm going to do with my platoon under the umbrella of what maybe the command and everything has planned, but I still have to have a meeting with who? My platoon. The same thing as you, as you being a commander of your unit. You can understand the overall mission of what the overall mission is, but you still got to have a meeting with your organization about what it is. I think culturally, somehow, some way, we need to develop some type of incubator, okay, way of saying, let me show you how to learn, how to unlearn, to relearn for the next 400 years, man.
But here's the thing. That's what
the time before we were integrated. Before we were integrated, we didn't have the educational gap. We taught our children very well. We didn't have the gangs in the streets.
Right.
We didn't have any of those things prior to integration. And so what we thought, or at least from all I've read, what we thought about integration is that if we are interacting with them, they will see that we're not those people that they thought we were, and they will share the power, the resources, and the responsibility with us.
Yeah.
What that did to us is we gave up our own communities, our own businesses, to integrate into a system that did not want us.
There you go.
And you know what? And you're right. But
it's just that simple, wasn't it, Mark?
Well, no. Why did we give it up? Why didn't we just beat the hell out of people that were trying to come in to take? Well, because we still looked at them as the boogeyman.
Yeah.
So we were still scared.
Right.
You know, we're still to this day have this inferior mindset. I mean, you can't take hundreds of years of abuse that has been beat into a people and think it's going to change. It's going to take that amount of years and or more.
Agreed.
To break it. And,
exactly.
Right.
And you know, and I'm glad to see Martin Smith is following us.
But integration was never about living next door to Martin or going to school with Billy.
Right.
Integration was about the sharing of the power, the resources, and the responsibility. And had those things happened, then our school wouldn't have been, the resources there would have been for our schools. Right. So it was never about living next door or any of those type of things. It was about sharing those three things. And we got and I say we got the okie doke because they shared living next door to them and going to school with them, and then built school somewhere else, and then moved somewhere else.
Remember we said coming out of war, when those soldiers came back and saw Black Wall Street, okay, and they saw us,
World War I.
You know, we was living large and doing things, and they were like, what the hell? You know, remember you went there? I I got off the air and I stood for a moment, man, in silence and thought about what you were saying, man. That was some real talk. Okay. We realized that they was not for us. Okay. They bombed us. They put legislation together. They did everything in their power to make sure that we did not rebuild.
Any other countries that have presidents and vice presidents, treasurers, secretaries, you know, those are the titles of a corporation, right? That's the structure of a corporation. So again, this is not just a regular country here led by an emperor, king, and queen. No, this is a corporation.
This is a corporation.
People don't understand that. They don't get it. They don't think about it at all. They don't put any thought into it. But it's a reality.
And you know what?
Corporation didn't agree with much Jimmy Carter said, but you said the day that we gave corporation, or I guess he said, the day that we gave corporations the same rights as individuals was the day we lost our democracy.
Trying to benefit, everybody else been benefiting off of us being a product, but us. And I love that Dr. Noah Shelton actually said that. He said when he spoke that at in Frankfurt, he said that it got to become a time that we got to learn how to turn ourselves into benefiting as everybody else has benefited off of us. We got to learn how to turn it around, that we learn how to benefit off ourselves, okay, as a demographic of people in this country that was formed and created intentionally to be ignorant and servient, to be a product to America. But we got to understand it, and we got to stop being emotional about it. Got to take the emotional out of it.
The man.
All right, if we all live in the same community, there are certain things that we all need. There are certain things that we all desire. Okay, so with that being said, we can put aside our little small differences and say, okay, we all got to eat, right? Well, we're living in a food desert with no grocery stores. Okay, how do we, through our political process, make our communities more attractive to the major grocery stores, or even try to fund a co-op ourselves, all right, to be able to create something where we have fresh, sustainable food within our grocery store? That's a political process.
Right there, what you're talking about. Culturally, our demographics of people have just, specifically our men. I'm always about our men first, okay? We just now learning how to let our nuts drop. Okay, let it hang. Okay, learn how to be men and navigate in this country as men. We just learning how to say that we are man. We no longer accepting someone calling us a boy. Or we just now starting to understand our humanity doesn't come from our Constitution. Humanity comes from our Creator. And so our social emotional, I think we need to have a social emotional incubator period of time that we sit down with ourselves, that conversation with ourselves, and talk about, things that we need to do in this country